You have the words, Jai Radha Madhava? No?
I have words.
Yeah,
we can get her.
Yeah, for her. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Kunjavi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Balabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Balabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Balabha Giridhari Jashodanandana Jashodanandana Ravanam Chani Yamanati Ravanam Chani Jai Radha Madhava Jai Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Balabha Giridhari Jana Balabha Gopi Jana Balabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Balabha Yashodanandana Brahmanandana Yashodanandana Brahmanandana Ravanam Chani Ravanam Chani Punjabi Hari Jaya Madhava Punjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Harivaricacharya Arthacharya Srimad Divine Grace Iti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Gora Premanandi. I think I should give a little background on what we've been doing, in part because the topic today is kind of up there philosophically, so a little background. The month of Damodar began on the full moon this past Sunday, November 1st, full moon in the month of Kartik. Now I learned something in the past week. Kartik is describing a month, a lunar month, according to Vedic calculation of time. The moon passes through 27 different constellations. They're called nakshatras. There's the big ones, that's the zodiac, that has another Sanskrit name. And then there's smaller ones. So the months, according to solar calendar, pass through 12 zodiac signs, the sun. And then the moon, according to Vedic calendar, passes through these 27 different, they're called in English lunar mansions, smaller constellations, in Sanskrit as nakshatras. And when the full moon, there's 12 of them, when the full moon passes, there's 27 total, but there's 12 lunar months. So when the moon passes closest to one of those nakshatras called Kritika, that gives the name of this month, Kartik, month of Kartik. Or we like month of Damodar, because the Damodar pastime took place during this month, Kartik. And even before Krishna performed this pastime, it was still known as Kartik. During the whole month, traditionally in Vedic culture, Kartik is a special month, very auspicious month, and so there's festivities common for the whole month. And so in ISKCON we observe the month of Damodar by singing Damodar prayers, very celebrated prayers by a very ancient sage she composed describing the very same Lila that's talked about in a number of the Puranas, including Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam about the Damodara Lila. And in short, it's a Lila, or pastime of Krishna, where he, Krishna, does some naughty things, purposely, mischievous things, we could say, restless things, purposely, so that the affection of Mother Yasoda can come to him in the form of chastisement. He wants to be controlled by her love, not just, otherwise, but by her love. He likes to be controlled by his devotees' love. And as a mother, she doesn't want to control her child. She loves her child. And so from the previous chapter 8, he did 2 naughty things to get her chastisement, and she didn't, not to his satisfaction. It was a loving exchange. He knew that she's not mean, not hurtful. He wanted the strength of her love in the form of chastisement. And so he did what he did. The previous chapter 8, Krishna has these celebrated pastimes, childhood pastimes, where he steals butter as soon as he can walk. I mean, before that he was crawling. These are pastimes. So he and Balaram would break into the storerooms of the elders of others, of the other families, because he had his friends, but the friends had parents, and he would break into the storeroom and steal. And then they would come complain to Mother Jasoda and say, you know what your son did? And so forth. But if the complaining wasn't like with their hands on their hips, they had love for Krishna too. So they were smiling as they were saying, your son is so mischievous, and he's so clever. And Mother Jasoda said, just, you have so much butter, just give him butter. And yogurt. Said, we do, but he doesn't want it. He wants to steal. And when we tried to check him from stealing, he finds some other way to steal. And so they're describing his cleverness. And he's really clever, without the detail. So when Mother Jasoda heard all these things, what did she do? She just embraced him and said, why do you do these things? And that wasn't sufficient. He wanted her chastisement. So what did he do next? Chapter 8. This is chapter 9. Chapter 8, he ate dirt. And the cowherd boyfriends, including his brother Balaram, said, Mother Jasoda, Krishna ate dirt. And Krishna said, they're liars. I didn't eat dirt. And if you don't believe me, look inside my mouth. So she looked inside his mouth, and what did she see? She's holding him on her lap. She's looking inside his mouth, and she sees the whole universe with all the details and details and details and details and details. Mountains, sky, stars, rivers, all living entities, and all, etc., etc., etc. There he is, sitting on her lap, and she's seeing the universe inside his mouth. It's a contradiction, right? It's like having the universe on her lap. But it's not just the universe, it's her little boy, inside of whom, because inside Krishna is everything. And he was showing her, and then her reaction was like, there was a whole series of, from one response to the next response. She was just riding the waves of ecstatic love for Krishna, and concluded, whoever he is, he's hungry, I have to feed him. So that was mischief number 2. Krishna wasn't satisfied. So he did something and inspired her to chastise him, so that that love, that particular feature of love, would be experienced by him. It was purposeful. And in part of the pastime, he's behaving and showing emotions and crying and this and that, like he's one of us. Or he's really what she thinks he is. He's her little boy. Although he's not. He has already shown on multiple occasions, he's shown his divinity. He's shown his opulence. Like, wow. And she processes it differently because of the strength of her love. She can't see him as the all-powerful Supreme. He shows her, she can't see it. She processes it some other way. The message goes to the intensity of parental affection. So this chapter 9, the Damodara Lila, for the first 20 verses is describing the Lila, and then the last 2 verses after that section are describing the glories of Mother Jasoda. All of it is like it's the crescendo to describe the glories of Mother Jasoda's love. Through her love, she controls the controller who has no controller. In Sanskrit, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara means controller. Para means supreme controller. All controllers are controlled by a supreme controller, and that's Krishna. Mother Jasoda controls him by her love. And he wants that. He wants that. He doesn't want to be controlled. He can't be controlled by anyone. But he voluntarily submits. He happily, joyfully, purposely submits to such love as Mother Jasoda has. That's the glory of this. That's why we spend a whole month in this auspicious month of Kartik honoring the Damodara Lila. So this morning, we're continuing part 3, and it's going to go through part 5 of a little section, that because the narrator of the pastime is Shukadev Goswami. You're familiar, yes? Shukadev Goswami? Shukadev Goswami. He's the narrator of the whole Bhagavatam, so he's narrating this pastime to the king, Maharaj Parikshit. And he takes a little pause describing the pastime and goes, wow. Krishna, so he's describing truths about Krishna, like why is this so special? And because Krishna is this and that and the other thing, yet Mother Jasoda is able to bind him. So we've been discussing. This is class number 3, and there's 2 more on the same topic. It's the 2 verses, text 13-14 from chapter 9. I'm going to read them in a moment. And then we're going to hear commentary explaining what unpacking those verses. Something like a visual for me is, here's a ball of cotton. And you can pack up the cotton, make a ghee wick. In your home you have some. You make an offering of ghee wicks, right? So how do you make a ghee wick? You take a ball of cotton, a little bit, not too much, of ghee, and turn it, and you get a ghee wick. But supposing you do it the other way. Here's a ball of cotton, and you pull out the fibers. You pull out the fibers, and the ball of cotton is just little strands of cotton. So what we're doing is taking the ball of cotton and looking at little strands. And then we're going to make a ghee wick and offer it to Krishna in honor of his Damodara Lila. So don't get confused if it's if you see this strand and that strand and the other strand and you don't see how they all fit together. It's okay. It's our acharyas helping us to understand truths about Krishna because from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita, one who knows in truth, tattvataha means in truth, one who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, janma, karma, chame divyam. Divyam means transcendental or divine. One who understands the transcendental nature of my janma, my appearance and my activities, that person has a ticket to the spiritual world. The cycle of birth and death is broken, and otherwise one will stay in the cycle of birth and death. And that's an option. And then there's another option. You get a ticket to break that cycle of birth and death, and mameti, you go to Krishna. So this is taking that cotton ball and pulling little strands of fibers of cotton so we can understand the truths about Krishna and the transcendental nature. That's what we're doing. That's the background. Once again, if you don't understand everything as we're going along reading, no problem. You just, the essence is, oh, how wonderful is Krishna. Oh, how wonderful is Krishna. I really, he is beyond my little binary processor mind to understand. He is inconceivable. Okay. So, here's the translation for, let's see here. Yeah. Just to get a little further appreciation, something we discussed yesterday is going to be expressed again. But Krishna is the harmonizer of all contradictions. Harmonize contradictions. Sounds like a contradiction. There's a verse from Nishingatapani Upanishad that says, here's some of the contradictions of Krishna. Here we go. Turiyam, aturiyam. He's inconceivable and he's conceivable. That's a contradiction. Atmanam and anatmanam. He's spiritual and he's not spiritual. He has energies that are not in that category. Ugram, anugram. He's very fierce and he's very gentle. Viram and aviram. He's very courageous and he's cowardly. So, but it's not a material cowardly. It's a pastime cowardly. I mean, cowardly. He's running from Mother Jasoda. He's running from Mother Jasoda out of fear. He who has no, he was feared by fear personified is afraid of Mother Jasoda. It's love. He loves being controlled by her. She loves being the mother. They're not like, he's a little kid, I can control him. It's just, it's her love as a mother. And it's not, there's no touch of anything mundane. Anyway, so he within him is everything. Say it differently. The absolute truth, by definition, the Vedas, is whatever is the source of everything, that's the absolute truth. Say it negatively. There isn't something that exists that does not emanate from the source of everything. Or say it another way. There's two things. There's Krishna and there's Krishnas. And there's not a third thing. So there's opposites, and he's the source of them. He's the harmonizer of all things. So that was what we discussed yesterday, and it's not easy to understand. How does that become possible? That he exhibits contradictory features? It's by his potencies. It's a fundamental understanding of Krishna Tattva, or truths about Krishna. Within Krishna, two unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Say it negatively. If there's something that Krishna cannot do, there's something that someone cannot do, then they're not God. So is there something that the source of everything cannot do? The source of everything can do anything. And how is that done? By inconceivable and unlimited potencies. And they're exhibited and then they're withdrawn. Just like that. And on what basis are they exhibited or withdrawn? His will. He doesn't have to lift a pinky. Doesn't have to do anything. Didn't even have to say, let there be light. Like the Genesis in the Bible says. God said, let there be light, and voila, there was light. He doesn't even have to say it. The Sanskrit word is ichcha, desire. He just has to have this contemplation, and there it is. His energies move according to his desire, is the point. And he can extend them and withdraw them, and there's no limit to those potencies, and his position is the controller of those potencies. He is the basis and support of everything. Again, say it negatively. There isn't something that exists that is not coming from him. Everything is coming from him. That's the absolute truth. By definition, and the Vedic definition is that's what the absolute truth is. Whatever that is, that which is the source of everything is the absolute truth. And that absolute truth is a person. A supreme person. Not an ordinary fellow or like a better version of us. We can't become the source of everything. We can receive some powers from the source of everything, but we can't be the source of everything. There is one source of everything. And the Bhagavatam is revealing that. That's Krishna. So here's the verse. It's 2 verses, text 13, 14 from chapter 9. This is Shukadeva Goswami speaking, appreciating the love of Mother Yasoda, because she can bind him with her love. That's the message behind all these details. That's the Giwik. And here's some cotton strands. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. He's all-pervading. But he's a person with a form. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Being absolute, beyond relativity, he is free from all distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. Whiplash. That unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, has now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wood and mortar with a rope. So get ready for some philosophy, because that's what's coming up. It's to help us understand Krishna Tattva, truths about that which is the source of everything. So the first reference is Canto 10, Chapter 3. These are prayers by Devaki and Vasudeva after Krishna appears. You familiar with the pastime, Krishna's appearance? A little bit? Krishna's appearance. In the prison house of Kamsa, Krishna appeared. He appeared in a four-armed form, and they're offering prayers. The mother and father of he who is the source of everything. That's a contradiction, right? He who is the source of everything doesn't have a mother and father. He's the source of everything. But out of love, they have a desire, and he fulfills their desire. He appears as if he's their son. And so this is the father, Vasudeva, offering prayer to Krishna. Shukadeva Goswami is speaking. After thus instructing his father and mother, the Supreme Personality Godhead, Krishna remained silent. In their presence, by his internal energy, he then transformed himself into a small child, human child. Actually, this is after their prayers. They prayed, he prayed, she prayed, Krishna spoke, he became silent, and he manifested a tiny baby form. The size of a child, the very same day, because he was born at midnight, little bitty baby. Goo goo gaga, little baby. Commentary. Atma Mayaya. That's the agency that Krishna used to make himself from the four-arm form to the little baby form. Atma Mayaya means his own spiritual energy. According to Mahasamhita, Atma Mayaya means, quote, by one's own free will. I was going through the Sanskrit of that verse. Babhuva prakrita shishu. Became an ordinary human being means that Krishna manifested his eternally perfect spiritual form as a baby, but not a material baby. Then he focuses on this one word, prakrita. Prakrita means it's a derivative of prakriti, which means material nature, commonly. But in this case, it's his eternal swarup, spiritual form, and swabhava, his eternal personality, because it's not a material form. In referring to great souls on earth, they are called prakriti siddha. Siddha means perfect. Thus, the word prakrita here means swarup, spiritual form, or swabhava, his spiritual nature. It cannot mean material in this context because there are statements like the following from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our verse for this morning, which contradicts that the form that he showed was a material form. So I'll read it again. This is the translation of our verse from the Damodara Lila. Here we go. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. That is, he exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Being absolute beyond relativity, he is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. That unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, has now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda considered him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. In this statement, this Damodara Lila statement, it is clear that he, whom Mother Yashoda bound up, was like an ordinary material child, prakrita shishu. Shishu means dependent or child. But actually he was not prakrita, he was aprakrita. Aprakrita means not manifest or fully spiritual. He appeared in a spiritual form. Therefore, this is the final sentence from this little section. The Lord, Krishna, showed his original spiritual form as a human-like baby. So, little explanation. Prabhupada would speak about this regularly, that in the Bible it says, man is created in the image of God. Maybe you're familiar with that. Man is created in the image of God. Now some people say the opposite. Oh, you people, you imagine God to be like you. It's called anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism says, you just imagine God to be like you, like a man. It's imagined. And the Bible says otherwise, and the Bhagavatam says otherwise. He has an eternal form, and we have a form in his likeness. That's the reality. So his form is all spiritual, eternally all spiritual. And when he appears in this world, he doesn't have a material form. He appears in a spiritual form. So how can one see his spiritual form? Well, by his potency, he permits one to see. And if he withdraws that potency, you can't see. Even bad people, when he performs his pastimes, they can see. And good people, they can see whether he's performing his worldly pastimes or not. They can see, because if he gives the potency to see, he can reveal himself. Voila. But when he performs his worldly pastimes, everyone can see. By his potency, everyone can see. And so he manifested that spiritual form of his. And Mother Jasoda just took it, he's my child. So now we're going to another reference. This is from the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text number 1. Very important verse. It's kind of like a prologue to the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhimahi means to meditate upon. And Satyam means truth, and Param means supreme truth. That this Bhagavatam is a meditation upon the absolute truth, which is the source of everything. Satyam Param Dhimahi. So in that verse, there's commentary that goes like this. There is another objection. What's that? When we talk about meditation, it indicates that we meditate on an object that has form. Forms are made of the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, which are products of matter, and must therefore be temporary. This objection is answered in the third line. Here's how it's answered. Your meditation upon an object that's not material. Here's the answer. It is like a reversal. What's that? One thing appears as another, vinimaya. Just as, for example, light may appear to be water, like a mirage, or water may appear to be earth, or earth in forms like glass may appear to be like water. Illusion. So, like something that appears to be one thing is actually something else. What is that something else that it really is, although it may appear to be something it's not? In this way, one falsely, Mrisha, thinks that the perfect spiritual form of the Lord is made of the three gunas, Trisharga. When he appears, so this is a meditation on the absolute truth that doesn't have a material form, but he has form that you can see when he gives that Shakti, or the power to see. When he performs his pastimes, you can see, or those that experience his pastimes can see. We can see through our ears, through sound. To confirm this, he refers to Gopal Tapani Upanishad, which says, I saw that one form of Govinda, a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, seated at the base of a desire tree in Vrindavan. Another Upanishad called Rama Tapani Upanishad, which says Rama is the half-syllable end form of spiritual bliss. Our Nrsinga Tapani Upanishad that we referred to earlier, the form of Nrsinga is the supreme Brahman, the Purusha, knowledge and truth. There's another Upanishad. Like, these are authoritative sources. The Lord has a form full of faultless qualities, which his form is independent. He is devoid of the qualities of lifeless material bodies. All the parts of his body, such as hands, feet, head, and belly, are bliss alone. From another Purana, Brahmanda Purana, it says, Krishna has a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, which gives joy to the people of Braja. Another reference from Mahabharaha Purana. The bodies of the Lord are all eternal, unchanging, and devoid of faults. They are never the product of matter. This is also understood in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is chapter 14. It's prayers of Brahma after experiencing Krishna showing him his divinity. Brahma prays, text 2 from chapter 14. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? That's what transcendental means. Beyond the faculties of the mind and senses, beyond the temporary, beyond time and space, whatever that is, that's what transcendental is. And someone that has great intelligence can't understand that which is beyond the faculty of intelligence and mind and senses to know. But that which is transcendental is knowable by disclosure from the transcendental source, which he's saying, you just showed me something that's like, wow, it's really, you're it. You're the source of everything in a human-like form. Although at that time, Krishna was just 5 years old. But he was the Supreme Lord when he was first born. He was the Supreme Lord when he was 6 days old, and so forth. He's the Supreme Lord. Although there's no change because he has no material body. Everything in the material world changes with time, but he's not influenced by time. He's influenced only by his own potencies. He's beyond time. That's kind of like not easy to understand. Let's say it differently. We're used to understanding things by reason and logic. It's called the mind. If something is this, it can't be that. It's the mind. It's a binary processor. Computers are binary processors. They replicate the mind. I'm not a computer scientist, but that much I know. It's a 1 or a 0, and that's computer technology. So if it's a 1, it's not a 0. If it's a 0, it's not a 1. And computer technology is working as a binary processor. It's replicating functions of the mind. So the binary processor mind cannot grasp transcendence, because transcendence is beyond the mind. You can't extend it. There's a verse in Brahma Samhita. You can travel for millions and millions of years at the speed of the mind and transcend. Govinda is still beyond that. The mind can't encircle Krishna. I got it. It doesn't happen that way. It is not going to happen that way. Transcendence is understood in a different way. Transcendence is understood through sound, like what we're doing right now. We're just repeating the message of the Bhagavatam, which is coming from a transcendental source, Shukadeva Goswami, and we're trying to extend our faculty of hearing to receive that sound, and through the hearing faculty, touch transcendence. Because that's how transcendence can be understood, through sound, and then rendering service unto that which is the source of that sound. the source of everything. That's the bhakti process. Service to that, through the medium of sound, the source of everything. And then again, hey, there comes our verse for this morning. Another reference from Canto 10, Chapter 9, verse 14. I'll read the translation. You heard it already twice. Being absolute beyond relativity, Krishna is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. That unmanifested person who is beyond the perception of the senses has now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. Okay, so now one more, and it doesn't get easier, it's still like involved. This is Canto 11, chapter 30. Canto 11, chapter 30 is Krishna in Dwarka. Krishna in Dwarka. After Krishna left Vrindavan, he went to Mathura for a short while, and then after Mathura, he went to Dwarka. So you know where Dwarka is, right? Off the coast of Gujarat. It's a place where Krishna resided for a major portion of his life. So Krishna is, at this stage, he's preparing to end his worldly pastimes. He went to Vrindavan after annihilating the demons that he came into this world to annihilate. Then he went to Vrindavan, spent 2 months in Vrindavan with all the residents of the Brijbasis, the cowherd men and ladies and everybody, his friends. And then he arranged for them to return to the spiritual world. Then he went to Dwarka to do the same. His eternal associates to return to the spiritual world. His earthly pastimes are wrapping up. So there was an event that took place by his internal potency that indicated to him, because he arranged it, that his worldly pastimes are going to end. So Krishna is speaking to his associates in Dwarka. O leaders of the Yadu dynasty, please note all these terrible omens that have appeared in Dwarka, just like the flags of death. We should not remain here a moment longer. That's the verse, and here's part of the commentary. Here is the evidence showing that the Lord's form, names, abodes, qualities, pastimes, and associates are all eternal. This is part of Krishna Tattva. He appears, looks like worldly, but it's not. It's eternal. His associates are, the places are, everything. And then he winds it up. It's a mystery. He creates the world, he enters into the world, and he departs the world. There's an example given in the Bhagavatam to help understand. It's incomplete, or it's an analogy that's not a perfect fit. The example is a spider. From the saliva or the fluids within the body of the spider creates a web. The spider moves around the web, and then the spider can withdraw the web back into the spider's body. So, not exactly like that, but similar. The world in which Krishna appears is from him. He moves around, and then he withdraws himself, and then he withdraws the world, the whole cosmic manifestation. But that form that appears in this world is not material. It's that which is the source of everything. That's the important thing to understand. Add his associates and the abode and his names and his form, his activities, etc., of the same transcendental nature. So here's commentary. There's several verses. From Gopaltapani Upanishad, quote, I satisfy with praises along with the Maruts Govinda, a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, 5 feet tall, seated at the base of desire trees in Vrindavan. Another from the Vedas, Chatur Veda Shikha. I am unlimited, immeasurable by 100, by 1,000 times in the forms of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, Aniruddha, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsinga, Vamana, Rama, Parashurama, Balaram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. Those are Lila avatars. These forms are not born and do not die. They do not become bound by ignorance or become liberated. They are all perfect, ageless, deathless, full of supreme bliss. Directly from the Vedas. Another from another Upanishad. The Lord's form is faultless and full of perfect qualities. The Lord's form is independent, devoid of qualities of the material, unconscious bodies. His head, lotus feet, and other limbs are all full of bliss. Another from Brahmanda Purana. Krishna's form is eternity, knowledge, and bliss, and gives bliss to the inhabitants of Vrindavan. There's more. Mahavaraha Purana. The Lord's bodies are all eternal, devoid of destructible elements. They, the Lord's forms, do not arise from matter. Here we go, Nrsinga Purana. Situated in his beginningless form, in every yuga, Vishnu protects the devotees and kills the demons. Another source, Vishnu Purana. He who thinks that the body of Krishna is material should be excluded from all rites, according to the Vedas and Smritis. If one sees his face, one should bathe with one's clothes on. Vishnu Purana. Here's Mahabharata. 2 references from Mahabharata. Quote, the Supreme Lord has no faults arising from contact with material elements. And then here's another one from Mahabharata that Shankaracharya writes commentary about. The Lord's body is immortal, made of nectar. And Shankaracharya's commentary says, Amrita, or made of nectar, means he who has a body without death. Now let's just pause on that for a moment. What's a body that doesn't have death? Because bodies are born. And anything that's born also dies. So what's Krishna's birth? It's not a material body, because material bodies die. And his body doesn't die. Shankaracharya writing like that. Amrita. I think I'm going to hit the brake pedal, because there's just much more of the same. And for someone that needs evidence, there's the abundant evidence. It just goes on giving evidence. But the principle, he goes in this commentary. We'll do it this afternoon. We'll continue from this point forward. He goes into the name. I'll just end with that. The name is also transcendental. So the pastimes of Krishna, there's a form, and it's fully transcendental. The pastimes, they look like material, they're not, they're fully transcendental. His abode is fully transcendental. His name is fully transcendental. So our process starts with the name. And it's like really easy, because ask Radha. Even kids, they like music. And so you just take music and you add the Mahamantra and stir. And because that sound is Krishna's name, there's contact with Krishna. And he's fully transcendental. We're not. I mean, our consciousness is not. Our consciousness is contaminated or covered. But it doesn't change the transcendental nature of the name. Not at all. We'll hear, as we go along, more of the same. Like this. Krishna, we really went off on it yesterday evening. Krishna is in our heart. Not only is in the heart, he's within every atom. Whoa, every atom. Like there's a wall, and there's atoms. It's not animate atoms, but Super Soul is there. He's holding the atom together. He's everywhere. So to say it negatively, where isn't? Is there some place where he isn't? That would be, then he's less than perfect, because it's something he can't do. He can't be everywhere. He's everywhere, but he's one entity. Now that's it. That's impossible. We can be here in your house, or we can be outside. We can't be inside and outside. Take a choice. It's the binary thing. Either this or that, but not both. For Krishna, no problem. He can be inside everything and outside of everything at the same time. He can be bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest at the same time. So we have access to that mystery, access to transcendence, just through the name. It's really simple. Even a child can do. You don't have to be a big, scholar. You just chant the holy name. And then as you chant the holy name, contact with transcendence is there. And then we'll take a look at what we just read. Comes the Bhagavatam, and then comes the explanation of the Bhagavatam, these little strands of cotton that are expanding all from the transcendental name, or the transcendental form, or the transcendental qualities, or transcendence is being unpacked and held up in front of you so you can make your Giwik and offer it to Damodar. With an understanding, with a better understanding of what you're doing. It's not just a ritual. I mean, it's rituals aren't bad, but it remains a ritual unless there's an understanding of what's the ritual for. What's this little offering of a ghee lamp to Damodar all about? Because all over the world, I shared this on Monday evening, and I'll end with this. We were at the home of two devotees, newer people, who were from the Russian-speaking part of the world. One of them was from the Ukraine. So I told a little Damodar story from the Ukraine. I'll share with you. 1 year, around this time, during the month of Kartik, or the month of Damodar, I was in the Ukraine. And the main temple in the Ukraine is in Kiev. I think I pronounced it right. Kiev or Kiev? I think it's Kiev. Kiev?
Yeah.
Kiev. Okay, Kiev. And it's really fantastic temple. The devotees built it themselves. The architect and they're craftsmen and artistic. So it was like beautiful building. They had just opened the building and the deities were installed. It was a nice time to visit. And on Govardhan Puja Day, which is coming up shortly, we drove from Kiev to Kharkov. Kharkov is east. And when we got there, it was a long drive, and there was an evening program in this humongous building, the old building where the walls are like several feet thick, built forever, not like, in the West. It takes forever to build them, but once they're up, so really old building, and the windows were broken. It was a rented building, and there was no central heating. In fact, there was no heat. And it was cold. I mean, people came bundled up with their casacats and the whole thing. And there were about 300 people. And the person that was the organizer said he didn't even do advertising. He just sent it out. You know how you send out messages. There wasn't any promotion. And 300 people came. And we're singing the Damodara prayers, and they're all offering a lamp. You know, there's a ritual. What do they understand what they're doing? There's benefit for them taking part in hearing the nice song to Damodar or about Damodar. So there's rituals involved in any spiritual practice, but to understand the purpose behind, that takes a little attention. So that's what we're trying to do. Understand the significance of the source of everything. What does that mean? What does it look like? Before you have take your ghee wick and light it and offer it to Damodar. Who's Damodar? And why are we offering a ghee wick to Damodar? I mean, it's nice. The song is nice. The melody is nice. It's beneficial even if you don't know what it is. And if one's heart is simple. I mean, they weren't just singing, they were dancing. Very simple hearts. And, you know, some amongst them may come to the point of inquiring, tell me more about this Damodar, please. And so that's what we're doing. Srimad Bhagavatam has the story. Or for children, there's a Krishna book. There's a children's version of Krishna book. It's like really simple, nice illustrations. And then there's the Bhagavatam that goes more deeply, and then there's commentary that goes more deeply, so that we can have more of an understanding of that which is the source of everything and why we're giving our attention to that which is the source of everything and offering whatever we do to that source of everything. That's bhakti. That's the bhakti process. Starts with hearing. Okay. So my apology for you, because the philosophy is a little up there, and it's a little, you know, stretched to like, hear this elevated philosophy. But there's a benefit in hearing, even if we don't fully understand. Hear anyways, and gradually it's, you know, clearing, and some little light comes in. Oh, that's why we're honoring Damodar in this whole month. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. Radha's got her hand up. Second, I saw another hand in the back first.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I think my mind got stuck in the phrase he's spiritual and non-spiritual, or not spiritual.
Yeah.
So that
yesterday evening, but I don't mind. We'll go there.
Yeah, the non-spiritual part, I was a little bit, my mind could not comprehend how.
Welcome to the club. But I can explain.
Yeah, because yesterday we said every particle has Krishna in it. So from that sense, I was like a little confused on that.
We'll do it again.
Okay.
We did it again. We did it last night, but I'll do it again. So you're done?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
hand the microphone back. There's matter and there's spirit, and there's the controller of both. And where does matter come from? It comes from the controller of both. So Krishna is the controller of both. And matter is not conscious. Conscious, one of the words that indicates conscious is cheta. You know the verse, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So matter is not conscious. the souls are conscious and they're plural, and there's one singular that's the source of all the plural consciousnesses. So he's the source of matter that's not conscious. But he's conscious. Yes, spiritual in that sense. Okay? Matter is not conscious. In that sense, matter is not spiritual. But because it's from another picture, is because it's from the source, it's also spiritual. But we say material or not spiritual because it's not conscious. Okay? Radha. Say it again? What's the
significance of the Diwali being in the Kartik month?
Of what being in the Kartik? Diwali?
Yeah, or what part does it play?
Well, its significance is that's when Ram returned to Ayodhya. And it just happened to be in the Kartik month. So we honor Diwali in the Kartik month. And the Lila of Krishna being bound by Mother Jasoda was on the Kartik day. It's an auspicious month. It's a nice month to bind Krishna. And it's a nice month for Ram to return to Ayodhya. It's an auspicious month.
And about the Govardhan Lila, it happened in Kartik month too.
Yes, it did.
So, what's the
It's an
significance of
auspicious
that?
month.
Is there anything related about Diwali to Kartik month?
That was your first question. The answer is yes. They happened
Oh, okay.
It happens during the Kartik month. It's not this was the cause and that's the effect. They just coincide.
It's just coincidence. Is this coincidence?
Well, it's Krishna's arrangement that, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. His role comes after Krishna pulls over the Arjun trees. He's not spoken about. Go back to chapter 8. And chapter 8 is called the childhood pastimes of Krishna. So the childhood pastimes of Krishna are the spotlight is on parental affection. He's performing his childhood pastimes for the nourishment of the parental personalities that have that rasa with Krishna. And he delights their heart by doing what he does. And towards the end of that chapter, special attention goes to Mother Yashoda. Because she's the mother, and Krishna wanted her affection in the form of admonishment or scolding. And she didn't. He ate dirt. But he showed her the universe. So at the end of that chapter, Maharshi Parikshit says, wow, what austerities did Yasoda and Nanda, actually she says it in reverse, Nanda and Yasoda undergo to have that privilege of parental affection where they don't even recognize he's God. What did they do to come to that position? Well, the answer is he didn't do anything to come to that position because they're eternally in that position. But some other answer is provided, which I won't go into. And then chapter 9 begins like, ta-da! Mother Yasoda is superlative. So she's superlative in one sense. Nanda is off with the cows and Mother Yasoda is with Krishna. Now the cows are part of the family business, and Krishna loves the cows, and the cows love Krishna. But Mother Yasoda is with Krishna in childhood. Before he goes out with the pasturing ground, she's with him all the time. She gets some special mercy by being the mother. So the beginning of chapter 9 is da-da-da-da, Mother Yasoda. How special is her love? She bound Krishna. Nanda didn't. Not that he didn't have the same kind of love, but it was a Leela that was for her. And then after he's bound, he pulls over the Arjun trees and Nanda comes. Here's the big crash. And he asks Krishna, how did this happen? The trees fall over, and Krishna's little boyfriends, they say, what happened? And he, their children's talk. But he's in the secondary role to her as far as parental affection is concerned. She gets special limelight because she's constantly with Krishna. And there's this exchange between her and him that Nanda is off in the pasturing ground. I mean, when at the end of the day he's back, and there's equal affection, but the Leela is not the same. Okay? Yeah. Yes. He's not in a spiritual body. He has spiritual body. Yes, exactly. Time as we know it is absent. Eternal time is present. Time as we know it is absent. No. Our hosts? Nothing. Atulia?
You were saying that the pastimes of Krishna are revealed by his mercy. So, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam books, they are published, all Krishna's pastimes are described there. So, and it's distributed. So is it that people who are reading, not all of them are becoming devotees? So what is the dynamics over there for the reader?
What's the balance?
The dynamics or the qualifications?
They've got a shield up. Or, using another metaphor, there's clouds in the sky. The sun is shining. The clouds are in the sky. This fullness of the sunlight is not coming through. But there's benefit because the sound vibration is the sound vibration. It's the sound vibration is Krishna. And the paintings in the book, they're Krishna. And so attraction for Krishna, at least purification is taking place for those persons. It's kindness, it's mercy. It's like prasadam. People may not know what prasadam is. It's prasadam, it's mercy.
So even for us, the amount of progress we make is dependent on our quality of reading Bhagavatam and attentiveness.
I'm not sure what you're asking. If our receptivity, our eagerness to know is a big factor. You're standing in the shower. It's morning time. You're taking a bath. You can just stand there. Or you can take the soap and, try to cleanse yourself. And it's more effective if you do that. It's not passive, it's an active process. And as much as the process of hearing is an active process, the receiver's on. I want to know. I want to understand. And even if I don't understand, that's okay. Wanting to understand, and even if one doesn't want to understand, it's still benefit. You're just standing in the shower. its benefit increases through the eagerness to wanting to know and apply in the mood of service. That's covered in the beginning. So take the benefit however, whenever. Okay?
Thank you.
Behind?
Slightly unrelated question, Maharaj, if it's okay.
I guess.
So, Maharaj, this is in terms of preaching. If somebody believes in Bhagavatam, so my question is, they like Arkitankin or others, kind of friends and relatives, they believe in Bhagavatam, but when I say Mahamantra is everything, you don't have to do any special other sort of mantras or anything, it is inclusive of all. Is there any reference that I can provide from Srimad Bhagavatam saying that Mahamantra is the source and sort of everything is in it?
There's yes, but I would have to get into my computer and find the references, but the answer is yes.
Okay.
Or you can do that research yourself. I can do the work for you, or you can do the work yourself.
I'll do that.
It's there.
Okay.
Try Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's a good place to start. There's references.
Mm.
Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. How about that?
Yeah.
And then the explanation of that. What does that mean?
Sure, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Radha seems to pick it up.
What is the significance of Nanda Maharaj's role being a bit minor in the Damodar,
Being a bit minor.
in the Damodar pastime?
But it's not comparative superlative. It's not a material competition. Rather, it's the glorification of Yashoda. Now, there's other pastimes where she's not even involved. For example, when Nanda Maharaj is kidnapped by the agents of Varuna, we don't hear at all about Yashoda. We hear about Nanda. And Nanda had his special opportunity to associate with Krishna. Or, at the end of the Damodara Lila, there's nice commentary that says, after the whole Damodara Lila was over, maybe you've heard this from Dinabandhu, Krishna refused to even look at his mother. And Nanda said, "Who's going to feed you?" And Krishna said, "You are." "And who's going to put you to bed?" Krishna said, "You are." And he said, "Your mother is feeling, neglected." He just looked the other way. He held Krishna on his shoulder and turned his shoulder so Krishna would see mother, just at least see her. He would move his head to the side. So Krishna is showing affection for Nanda that he wasn't showing for his mother because she bound him. Although the Leela, so it's at different times, spotlight goes to him and away from her. But that was also love, because it's just a loving exchange. It's not, false ego.
Thank you.
Do you have something?
Raj, what does it mean by form of eternality, knowledge and bliss?
It's language. And language is limits. Bhaktivinoda Thakur expresses. We use language to convey an idea, and language by its very nature has limits. So what is meant by it is the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So rupa is not included in eternity, knowledge, and bliss. It's the form of. It's language. That form itself is made up of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Satchitananda Vigraha. So how do you translate that? You have another way? Vigraha means form, the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. You can say, Krishna is form, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. It's language.
So when we think of a form of knowledge,
You think of Krishna.
it is hard to conceive of.
Of course. How do you conceive of the form of eternity?
So how I was understanding was that the form is eternal.
Yes.
I mean, in our case, the form is not eternal, and Krishna's form is eternal.
That's correct.
And
So it's also correct to say it's the form of.
second question I have is, when we say we understand, like Veti Tattvata, understand in truth, or know in truth, Krishna's birth and activities, does that understanding mean that we accept the contradictory and inconceivable nature of Krishna? Because after all, he is Adhokshaja. Our mind, no matter what, will never be able to comprehend all these varieties of contradictions.
Yeah.
Just to kind of stay with that understanding that there is a reconciliation happening after all
Yes.
in the absolute truth. And just within that acceptance, there is the qualification or eligibility to go back to Godhead.
Yes. Then there's details and details, depending upon one's eagerness and depending upon Krishna's disclosure. We have a question in the back.
Looks like I started.
What is your favorite Krishna pastime?
Probably Damodara Lila.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the reasons is that the residents of Vrindavan have the experience of meeting with Krishna and separation from Krishna, and meeting with Krishna and separation from Krishna, recognizing that Krishna made arrangement where they could all be together with him for 7 days and 7 nights, uninterrupted. So they're all in ecstasy because they're meeting. It's a festival. Govardhan festival has that mood. I mean, we're our current situation, it has that mood. Everyone coming together, honoring being with Krishna. And if the thought goes to all the residents of Vrindavan who so much have love for Krishna, are with Krishna uninterruptedly, how joyful. And he's making an arrangement for that because they desire that. Now when he puts the Govardhan hill down, then again there's separation. So maybe he should just stay there with the hill up permanently. But meeting and separation is part of relationship. But it's reciprocation with their desire to be with him. Like a grand crescendo. Kind of like, in an orchestra. Over there's the bass instruments, over there's the trumpets, over there's the violins, over there's the kettle drums, and over there's the piccolo, and sometimes it highlights this, and sometimes it highlights that, and then it gets into this, they're all together doing their thing. So that's what Govardhan Lila is like.
There are some online questions.
Okay.
This is from Sanchari Mataji. Maharaj, are there any description of Vasudev and Devaki's understanding of Yashoda and Nanda's elevated love for Krishna? More especially of Mother Yashoda?
Yes. They have Krishna, when Krishna is reunited with them, Krishna says, because of my fear of Kamsa, he's putting the blame on himself, because of my fear of Kamsa, you were not able to experience my boyhood and childhood pastimes. So shame on me. But indirectly, it's, they had that privilege. So their understanding is they had that privilege. But there's no envy. There's no competition. It's not a worldly attitude. But they had that appreciation. They're very fortunate. Next.
Second question from Sanchari Mataji is, also, are there any description of Mother Yashoda's feelings about Krishna's adulthood pastimes, like his marriage and the many battles and wars he was part of?
There's the meeting. I'm not yet very familiar with the meeting at Kurukshetra, where we hear some of those things. But if she wants, she can go there and read some of those exchanges.
Next,
Latter part of Canto 10.
next question is from Umala Mataji. 3 questions. Because we have made our lives very complex, many times dovetailing activities in Krishna's service seems very indirect and kind of imposition or speculation. How to dovetail our activities in such a way that they are directly in service? That's question number 1.
Let's just do one at a time. Advice to Amara Mataji is what you've heard from your mentor. Don't try to do so many things. Or you try to do too many things and get stressed out, trying to do too many things. Focus on fewer things. And in those fewer things, then pay attention to the application principles in those fewer things. And you'll find an answer to your question.
Second question. In our family tradition, Lakshmi Puja is observed, but Gaudiya Vaishnavas do not. Can this be done for the pleasure of elders who want to continue the tradition? Will this please Krishna?
Kind of. If you're pleasing elders has the purpose of pleasing Krishna. However, depends upon your elders. Your elders might appreciate, you know what? Our observance is Radhastami. because we don't worship Lakshmi minus Krishna or Narayan. So in Radhastami, we worship the energy, Shakti, internal potency, together with the Shaktiman. Now it depends on the elders, and if you can help bring them to the position of understanding the difference between Lakshmi Puja, generally speaking, in this world, is the material manifestation of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Say it again for our newer people here. There's the internal potency, Lakshmi Narayan, and Lakshmi of the Lakshmi Narayan transcendental realm manifests in the material manifestation of Lakshmi, the goddess, demi-goddess Lakshmi, that people of this world worship because they want wealth, material prosperity. If she can help her elders understand the difference between material worship and spiritual worship, that would be really good.
Question number 3. Since mind cannot grasp transcendence, how can we feel the mercy of Krishna many times in our lives? Do I just feel mercy because something was favorable to the mind?
No. You're in big trouble if that's what the criterion is. You have to, change the channel to the Krishna channel, and it starts with hearing. And hearing and chanting and so forth. Is everything okay back there? You're uncomfortable? No, your sister. You're okay? She's hungry? Grumpy?
Okay, next question is from Ravi Prabhu. Can you please explain how the ritual of ghee lamp to the Lord originated from? During the Damodara Lila, is there a mention of offering ghee lamp?
I don't know the history. I just know the principle. And the principle is we offer things that are from the Lord to the Lord. And fire is one of those things we offer.
During Damodara Lila, I only heard about Mother Yashoda tying Krishna and Krishna pulling down Arjuna trees, but not about ghee lamp offering or singing Damodara Ashtakam.
No problem.
Okay. Next question is from Raja Prabhu. Yashoda Ma, mother's love, is glorified in Damodar month. Prabhupada states in Dhruva Maharaj pastimes, Lord's kindness is equal to millions of mothers. So just by meditating this instruction, can we feel this love? This is from Radha Vallabh Das, Radha Vallabh Prabhu.
It depends on your purity, what you feel. But the answer is, if the purity is there, yes.
Okay. Next question is from Arun Prabhu. Hearing the narrations of love of Mother Yashoda for Krishna in the specific way you are sharing with us is helping me appreciate how love of God is already present in our heart, but is perverted. So just a comment. This was, I think, Ananta Shesha Prabhu, if I'm not mistaken. Next question is from Prasad Prabhu or Karuna Prabhu. Kartik month is a month where Mother Yashoda binds Krishna with ropes on abdomen. We know that. But what is the significance of Srimati Radharani in this month?
I can recite the pastime because there was a question, Parma Karuna. Our worship from Srimad Bhagavatam chapter 9 is Yasoda Damodar, and the role of Radha is described as follows by Rupa Goswami, by Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami makes reference to a certain section of Bhavishya Purana. I forget, Bhavishya Purana. I can read it. Because Parma Prun is a really precise type of person. He doesn't want a ballpark idea. Precise. So here we go. Okay. Bhavishya Purana. The reference is Jiva Goswami's Priti Sandarbha. You can look it up later if you want. Anuchhed 367. And one of the translations reads like this. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-6. 32, that's the Rasa Lila section. And it's pointing to a gopi, doesn't name her by name, from 10:32-6 Bhagavatam. A gopi who thinks Krishna is mine. This gopi, Jiva Goswami writes, is also situated in the midst of other gopis. Her position is very rare and exalted. She has a special kind of love for Lord Krishna, thinking, Krishna is my property. She stares at him with frowning glances and enjoys other pastimes with him. This particular gopi is Sri Radha. Her exalted position is described in these words, describing the month of Kartik in the Braja Ratnakara Dhrita portion of Bhavishya Purana. Quote, Kartik month described. That evening, Lord Krishna went to Radha's home, angry. She bound him. He bound his waist with her own sash, telling him about a great festival at his home. Lord Krishna pacified his beloved Radha, and she set him free. And here's a second reference, same connection with the Bhavishya Purana, but this is Jiva Goswami's explanation from Radha Krishna Charana Deepika. The translation reads as follows. Jiva Goswami is explaining. In Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Krishna eternally assumes a youthful form. In this form, he enjoys in various ways along with his beloved Srimati Radhika. Once, during the Kartik month, he stayed home to celebrate the festival arranged by Purnamasi. Due to the festivities of that day, he arrived late at night to meet with Srimati Radhika. In a state of anger, she tied him up using her waistband as a rope. Krishna then narrated everything that had taken place at his home that caused the delay. The story appeased her, after which Krishna said to her, "Oh, slender-waisted Radhika, I am most satisfied by this action of you in binding me lovingly by your waistband. Oh, beautiful lady, this name of mine, Damodar, has now become dearer to me in this world of mine. No other name is as dear to me as this name. By chanting this name, one will always have children." Better not chant that name for a sannyasi. Maybe spiritual children. And will attain all perfection along with the rarest forms of devotional service. One will also be able to stay eternally in my abode by chanting these names. In the near future, when Mother Yashoda will bind me to the mortar, this name of mine will be manifest in the material world. In this month of Kartika, one who worships me with you, according to the rules of the scriptures, will attain the fulfillment of all desires. This is now from a commentary on Krishna Karnamrita, which was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. I think we should end. Thank you very much. See the Prabhupada.